Welcome to the Miller Report. I think we can all agree that the upcoming election in New York is making worldwide news. Today's guest is one of the most prominent experts of elections. He has worked in over 700 political campaigns. 700. He's worked with President Bill Clinton, Mayor Bloomberg, and the former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox. I want to welcome Hank Sheinkopf to the Miller Report. Or shall I call you Rabbi?
Hank's a good thing. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I was so impressed with you the other night. I went to an event, and Hank was speaking about the upcoming election, and I said, I got an emergency. Come on tomorrow to the Miller Report.
Well, thank you.
He said, for you, Suzanne, I'll do it.
Oh, that's sweet of you. No, I'm happy to be here, and I'm grateful that that we're going to spend this time together, and I hope people, who are watching and listening get something out of it that's valuable to them in their lives.
It's not just the talk of New York, as I said earlier. It is really the talk of the entire country. I have clients in Italy, in China, in France that are calling me and saying, should I sell my property? What is happening in New York? And this is happening every single day, every single moment. So I'm going to ask you as the expert, how did we get here?
We got here for a lot of reasons. We got here because the income gap is a real thing. The income and resource gap in this country is very significant. It's gotten worse since the Reagan years. It is more difficult for more people who are on the bottom of the economic ladder to survive. When I came up, I was able to work, as a unionized counterman. I mean, that union, Local 60, doesn't exist anymore. I worked the stage, the Carnegie, I picked up a couple of bucks. Those jobs don't exist. We've real estated them up with development out of existence. Tastes have changed. The city's changed. You walk into a store, you want to get a job. What do you say? Can I talk to Mr. Pan Quotidian? I mean, really, it's absurd. So the income gap continues to grow. In the Bronx alone in New York City, 62% plus are on Medicaid. So the level of services that we're providing to people has also increased exponentially. The failure of real health care reform is, we're not on the basis of what happens in Europe at all, and we should be. So you have all these things happening at the same time, and that sets the stage, plus the death of the Democratic Party, sets the stage for a charismatic leader, the man on the white horse, will come forward and say, I can resolve these problems for you. And that's what this guy is.
We're going to get into his detail and what his plan is, but to me, I'm watching this, and have you ever seen anything like a candidate of nowhere excelling, the President of the United States not endorsing his own party, and then two mayoral candidates leaving their party and running as independents? Like, is this the craziest thing you've ever seen in 700 elections?
It's pretty crazy, but New York mayoral elections generally are crazy. And there's always something bizarre that happens in a New York mayoral election, that changes the dynamic. I mean, if you look back in history, Dave Dinkins, for all the nonsense people talk about him, but crime came down under Dinkins. The Crown Heights riots did him in. It was an unexpected phenomena. Let's see. Mike Bloomberg got elected. Mark Green was supposed to walk in, right? But Mike Bloomberg, thank God, was elected. Why? One of the great mayors of any period, 9/11. John Lindsay was elected mayor in 1965. Why? Complete breakdown of city services. So there's something unusual that always occurs. Why did A-Beam lose that election in 75 to Ed Koch? Was it because of the fiscal crisis? Part of it. The real reason he lost it was we had a riot in East New York and Brownsville. So there's always something crazy that happens in New York election. And these kinds of contested moments also reflective of an ethno-demographic shift. We've seen in other cases where white ethnics left, where the minority populations increased, where different groups have taken more dominance. And New York is going through a significant demographic shift. You can say that 18% of the population right now are Chinese. You've never seen this before. Jews are leaving. Jewish numbers are about 800,000.
Where are they going?
I think they need, in the more religious communities, they need more space. So they're probably moving, my hunch, I'd have to look at it, but probably to Orange County and Sullivan County, where they can get more space for larger families. The movement of younger Jewish people out of New York City because they can't afford to live here. They're moving to Teaneck or other places in New Jersey, more religious people. And others are going to stay as long as they have to stay. But, when the era of the $9 latte is with us, we have a generation that's the most pampered in the history of the world, that has eaten more regularly, been more highly educated, been more professional, been housed with all the affordability issues, which are true, but is being housed more regularly in more luxury developments paid for by parents, and who will experience the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. For them to complain and vote for Mamdani is the most extraordinarily crazy thing I've ever seen.
No matter where they're going, I think everybody will agree that the fortunes have been made in New York. New York is still the greatest city, and wherever you've gone, wherever you are, this is the place that we have to be thankful for and grateful for, that New York City has given my parents that were immigrants an ability to make a living.
No question.
We have to keep fighting, and that's one of the reasons I have you here today. And hopefully
I'm not going to give up. I mean, my life story is a New York story. I mean, I've worked all over the world, and without free university, I would have never gone to school. I mean, unquestionably so. I mean, at 16, I was out in the street. I had no money, no home, no nothing. I mean, New York gave me all these opportunities. I could walk into places I want to work. I mean, it's just that the other problem, by the way, is that a guy like me could not get into the system today, and that's part of what's driving this unrest. The fact that you just got to break in.
Is that because you're white and Jewish?
No, it's because I would, if I were the same person as I was at 16, and today, becoming white and Jewish, would that stop it? No, I don't think so. I think that the opportunities to break in, that entrepreneurial zeal, the cost of things is much higher. It's a very different city. You just can't show up and say, by the way, here I am. You go to Wall Street and do that. Okay, if you're educated, but if you don't have those kinds of credentials, you're not getting into that door. That's the difference.
I agree that change is happening, and change is usually good, and it means growth.
Sure.
But now we're at a point of change that I think is very negative, and I'm watching this election and the things that he stands for. Get rid of misdemeanors and legalize prostitutions and all of these things, which we'll get into. I see 4 people in the race, and you as the expert. Firstly, do you think anybody's dropping out?
I think Mayor Adams is probably 2 weeks away from making that decision.
Why not tomorrow? That's the last day to go on the ballot.
In 2002, I worked against Andrew Cuomo when he ran for governor the first time, and he lost. He was not going to win. He was beaten. I really beat him up pretty badly. And what is extraordinary about that race is that his name was still on the ballot. Going to the Democratic primary, we told people, please don't vote for me. Now, the class move here to protect New York would be for people to do the same thing. Curtis Lee should say, please don't vote for me. Vote for the guy who can win, because the Republican is not going to win that race. Not with President Trump's numbers.
Do you think he'll do it?
Oh, no.
Do you think Mayor Adams will do it?
I think Mayor Adams has a higher shot at doing it than anybody else.
Well, isn't Curtis polling better?
It doesn't matter. I mean, whether he polls better or he doesn't, having a unified candidacy against this guy, you got to listen to his rhetoric. I mean, if you look at his face, you have to understand who Zohran Mamdani is.
Tell us.
He is, he's the enemy of democracy. He is certainly the enemy of the Democrat Party. What the Working Families Party, coupled with the Democratic Socialists, will do is they will take over the dead body, that carcass called the Democrat Party, and use it to run candidates around the country. Why? Because in most parts of the United States, you cannot get a third party on the ballot, but you can get a Democrat on the ballot. And
what's going to happen in Virginia?
I think the Democrat wins, and that's reasonable. She's not a lunatic. I mean, the lunatics don't get elected in southern states, but I think the South will become, as I said before, much more red, and you will see 2 countries. And that country that I talked about will extend from Pennsylvania. It'll be half of Maryland, Delaware, and not the District of Columbia, Virginia, go south to Florida and come across to Arizona. There's a couple states in the Midwest. That's going to be America if this guy wins. Why? Because the revolt will not be insignificant.
Let's stay with a 2-person race.
Sure.
In your opinion, how do we get Sliwa and Adams out?
They should do, whoever decides to leave should do the New York Patriot thing, which is say, I got to save this city.
Exactly. And unite.
We got to save this city. I mean, everything that we represent is on the line here. Do we represent a pluralistic society? Actually, do we lead the nation in pluralism and opportunity? Or do we believe that when someone says, defund the police, they're lying? The guy says, no, I really didn't say that. No, the people who support him do. When someone says we're going to legalize prostitution, what does that tell the minority communities? Does that tell them what they're really worth? This guy's telling you. When he says we're going to increase the age for misdemeanor prosecution, which he can't do, by the way, to 26. No, we're not going to prosecute misdemeanors. Why don't you just put a target on every cop's head? When he says, which means more smaller stores will close because there will be no prosecution for shoplifting. And we've seen it already, what happens with the chain drugstores. They're going out of business. They're leaving. When he says that he's He intends to dismantle the police department, parts of it. He means it. You see, when crazy people say things, the Americans and New Yorkers say, he really doesn't mean it. No, he doesn't. But no, he means it. When he says, in his past history, with anger in his face, globalized intifada, stupid Jews and others are going to say, he doesn't mean it. But the fact is, when you say that, what you mean is body parts being seen on streets after buses are blown up and people are killed. That's what it means. And anybody who thinks differently is foolish. They're foolish.
How many Jewish people in Berlin supported Hitler? I mean, here we go.
If you listen to his rhetoric and you watch his face and you listen to and you look at they ran a brilliant campaign. They obviously had someone on the payroll who understood the psychology message. Because if you look at even the stickers that he's used, he looks like Superman. Okay, if you look at those graphics, the message was very clear. There were 10-second ads on television, the domination of the internet, where he was seen as a kind, soft person, which is not who he is at all. People around them have no clue. When you look at them, how are they going to run a city going into a fiscal crisis? That's the other problem. When the REITs, real estate investment trusts, if this guy gets elected, somehow pull the plug in the first quarter of next year, the mayor is responsible for filing a fiscal plan come January and striking that budget by July 1, 2026. The state has the hole. The city has, we guess now, is about a $6 billion hole. How is he going to cure it? He's not. He's going to blame everybody else.
Well, 1%.
And if he creates a revolution in the streets, it will be okay for him. See, that's what people don't comprehend. He wins and they win through disorder. They don't win through order. The idea that somehow he's purposely running to manage this is not so. He's running to disassemble it.
And then what?
So that people have something to complain about and create a movement that blames the people who came before and gets people into the street. If you are a centrist congressman.
Sounds like Cuba.
If you are a centrist member of the Congress, Meeks in New York State, Meeks in New York City, Meeks, Jeffries, Goldman, and who would be the fourth? I have to think about that, but the Nadler seat, but that's already going to change hands. Those 3 seats, you're a centrist, you're pro-Israel. You better be prepared for what's coming because they're coming after you. Ditto in the legislature because they have all kinds of money from where it comes from, we don't know, but probably some of it from Soros, and independent expenditures. I mean, I predicted that he would win in January. New York won. You can check it. I said it. Annika Pergamon on New York 1 said, you were the one who said it. I did. I predicted Trump also in 16, 20, and 24.
Well, I want your prediction, but we're going to wait till a little later in the show. Yeah. I do want to talk about the money.
Sure.
So, first of all, this guy he was an assemblyman. He's only passed 2 bills. Right. He's been absent 50% of the time. Where did he come from?
That's a good question. I mean, he came out of the Students for Justice in Palestine in Bowdoin College. He came out of some kind of, it's a copy of the Obama model, except that Obama, no matter what people may think, was a fine domestic president and not a very good international foreign affairs president, but he liked the country, okay? There's a difference.
Good start.
He liking the country and caring about it is very important, and he did believe in justice and closing income gaps. I don't think this guy believes in any of that. He talks about it. What he believes in is creating disturbance and movement. That's a different issue. So where did he come from? He came from New York City. He went to Bank Street. He went to Bronx High School of Science. His father has been a consistent hater of the state of Israel, believes it should be wiped off the map. His mother attempted, as has been reported in the media, to ensure that Gal Gadot, the actress, would not appear at the Academy Award stage. And it wasn't because, obviously, she was a Ukrainian refugee, because she's a Jewish person. I mean, the rest of it's nonsense. I mean, the organizing of Hollywood now, which Jews created at great risk, by the way, against the Jewish state, and which means against Jews. You see, stupid Jews also believe that this has nothing to do with them. It has to do with something. It has to do with Israel, but that's not the case. And history should be teaching them something. But we have failed our children because we've told them that gaining stature is more important than gaining a soul. And that is the tragedy that we're going to experience. We experienced in the primary when 35% of those people, those young Jewish people, voted for this guy who intends to kill them if given an opportunity.
Who do you think his campaign backers are? I
think Soros foundations, or some of the device. I think he's getting money.
Isn't he a Jew?
Yeah. What does that matter? Soros is also responsible for electing Alvin Bragg. He dumped $2 million in there in an independent campaign, electing woke DAs around the country, which makes some sense from his perspective, from Soros' perspective, because he's obviously hated the state of Israel and being Jewish, and it is in direct violation of the Torah, which tells us in Hebrew, shoftim and shotrim was in the portion of the Torah that was read, I think, 2 weeks ago. Shoftim, judges, which means that you should appoint marshals. Really, it was shotrim, not police, but marshals and judges. Why? So that you can have order, not so you can have law and order. So you can have order in society so that people can function, so they can do what's right. This is a very bizarre situation we're living in. And part of the thing that's driving it is the end of the civic culture that's guided this country since the end of the Second World War. What does that mean? The so-called Judeo-Christian ethic. Service. I mean, the service organizations that provided the people that go to hospital, Shriners, Masons, go to hospitals, do after-school tutoring in minority neighborhoods, do volunteer work. I guarantee you that the people that voted for Mamdani, those young kids, have never done anything for anybody in their lives. And the death of those civic organizations, Lions, Kiwanans, Masons, Rotarians, who all spend their time making society better, the death of them, plus the belief in self, which is so extraordinary, has made the situation clear, plus the decline of religiosity. I mean, when Tocqueville, the great French, kind of polemical fellow, he was an essayist and a thinker about it, came to the United States in the 1830s. He said, look, this is the most overorganized and religious place in the history of the world. And those values made us great. Now they're dying. I also believe one other thing, and I'll be quiet a second, which is not one of those kids, I guarantee, my brothers and I, we were police, or we were soldiers and police, or we did something that we did the dirty work of democracy. I guarantee you that Mamdani's electorate, largely those kids, have never put a callus on their hands.
Let's stay with the money.
Sure.
Do you think any money is coming from foreign governments?
It would not be surprising.
What's the penalty if it is?
There's a statute. There's a statute that prohibits it. I don't know what the punishment is, but you'd have to register as a foreign agent, I would guess, and the laws on foreign agents are pretty strict. I mean, we know people, certainly very very prominent people who've been indicted.
We've gone back and forth listening to Trump help and not help and get involved or not get involved. What is your opinion? Do you think he's going to get involved, or is he just accepting the fact that this deal is done?
I think there's a political question and there's a moral question. And sometimes politics and morals meet, and sometimes they don't. The political question is a different one. Trump and the Republicans have the opportunity to run against New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. They have a chance to run against the cities, which has always been a major part of American political politics, where the suburbanites and the exurbanites hate the cities because they're everything that they can't be, which is they're elitist. New York and Los Angeles are elitist places. The MAGA movement is about the attacks on elitists, and to a great extent, the unification of the South and the Midwest. So Trump benefits by having a Mamdani politically.
I got to disagree with you on
Okay.
that. I got to think that you follow the money, and there's enough money here between him and his allies.
He'll get it anyway. He'll raise that money anyway. The President of the United States will raise the money.
And well, he's got personal money. He's got Trump Tower. He's got
The
businesses
President of the United
here.
States will.
His name is on a lot of doors, Hank.
He benefits politically. It makes it easy for the Republicans to take the
you're
House.
saying that you think that he's hoping that Mamdani wins.
On the other side hold on, the Republicans are nationally. On the other side of this thing is the financial issues for him. New York made him. He is a believer in New York and its promise. Remember, he saw himself as a Queens guy, as a Queens developer, shut out from the Manhattan guys who treated him not well, and ultimately he won that battle, okay, through grit and hard work and being smarter and tougher, okay, and having better people around him. That's who Donald Trump is. Does he really want to watch the city go in the toilet? I don't think so. I think he's torn about it. That's why that statement last week about this and that, it was kind of unclear.
Did you hear him on Sid the other day?
I'm sorry?
Did you hear him on Sid Rosenberg
No, I
the other
did not.
day? He said, maybe. He said nothing.
No, that conforms.
So in your professional opinion, do you think he's going to help or not?
I don't know that he will. And I don't know that he won't. Because, again, It's a personal decision versus a political one.
Can he help? Or is it going to make it worse?
It's problematic because his numbers, his negatives are very high. Again, he did better than any Republican since Ronald Reagan, I would guess, in the election last year in New York City. He probably got 35% of the vote, which is terrific for a Republican. The problem is the African-American votes and I don't like the word Latino, Spanish-speaking vote, people who come from Spanish derivative countries, are likely to not be happy with him. Why? Cuts. And the stuff that he's talked about, and the immigrants, the migration, the illegal immigrant issues, which people see in very different ways, and the cuts in social programs, and the sense that he's not been kind, are not helpful. But he will. That 35% will still be there.
It's a lot. Without revealing everything, tell our audience your strategy and your predictions.
Look, I predicted Mamdani. And I've been pretty.
Wait, so you're predicting there's a win here?
No, I'm not yet. But why? Because
let's roll up our sleeves for the answer, everybody. 700 elections. We want to hear.
I think that he can be defeated, and the only way you defeat him is by knocking his numbers down. The idea that somehow simply having a unified candidacy is sufficient is not accurate. You can have a unified candidacy, which you need, but you need to knock his numbers down, and you need to get him below 30. Now I don't believe the Times numbers at 46. I think it's about 37 would be my hunch, 38. You can knock him down. And that's got to be done.
You're predicting he doesn't win?
I'm predicting that he can be beaten.
And tell us how.
Knock his numbers down, unified.
How?
Get in the street, stop doing and again, listen, my perspective and attitude is entirely different. And I'm known for being a pretty tough guy. Let's be clear. I came from a school in this business before public financing. And the mantra that the guy who found me in the South Bronx and told me I was going to be a great man, I said, I don't give a crap about that. I just want to pick up my $300 in cash a week, because I was press secretary in a campaign. He taught me something very important. His name was Walter Diamond, and he worked for the Teamsters Union. And ultimately, I went to work for Local 237 Teamsters, which I'm proud of. When you take the king's shilling, you do the king's bidding. You don't worry about the next job. And the problem with the consultants today is they're all worried about the next job. See Hessians that are going to go in there, get into the street, and take Mamdani down in those neighborhoods by talking about what he really intends to do. And when he changes his tune, you show people that this is what he said, and this is what he's saying now for one reason to get your vote. You got to tell people the targets here are blacks, Latins, Asians, and ultimately, I'm not going to tell you the fourth one, but I know where they are. They're in the outer boroughs, and you got to get them.
Do you want to tell our audience how anybody can help?
Well, I'm involved with independent expenditures. I'm not working independent committees. It's Protect the Protectors. It's online. What else we got here? Let me see here. I pulled it up for a reason because I'm not very good at things like. And
you said earlier that you're doing this gratis.
I'm not making a dime on this. I think that I owe this. I owe what I'm doing. Protect the Protectors. ProtectTheProtectors.nyc. I'm not making money on this. I have no desire to make money on this. I'm not the richest guy. I put 2 kids through college and graduate school. I gave them every opportunity I never had. That was my desire in life. I travel the world. I do 300,000 miles a year just to make sure that they had the opportunities I did not have because I had no opportunities. And I'm done with that. I got enough to retire. I'm not going to live in a palace. I can get through the end of life.
You want to save democracy.
But I think there's a larger issue here. And if you really believe you owe, then it's time to return the favor, because when you listen to this guy talk, you have to listen carefully, and you have to look at his face. It's all talk. If you look at his district, he's got the largest concentration of public housing in the entire United States. Before he ran for mayor, if you went in those buildings and you asked, who Zohran Mamdani is? Mamdani, they would say, who the hell is he?
Tell us.
They wouldn't know. But why? Because he's done nothing for anybody except do one thing, create a movement. And he's told you what he intends to do.
Can he do any of the things that he's saying he's doing effectively?
He can probably corral the votes in the New York City New York City employment retirement system to dump Israel securities. That he can do. Can he legalize prostitution? No, but what he can do is direct police officers, his police department, not to enforce that code. The same way they don't enforce public disturbance anymore, or public loitering, whatever it is. He can try to increase the power of the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which would make cops' lives even more miserable. He can reduce the number of police officers. He can try to put so-called programs in place which would substitute for police activities on domestic violence and other issues, which might not work. He can cut the number of school safety agents. That was his advisor, Brad Lander's brilliant idea, and the public advocate when they were both in the city council. And the end result is that we have 6,000 weapons that we know that were seized last year in city schools, plus we have a shooting a week because there's no safe corridors anymore for children. What else can he do? He can do that through the budget.
One of the biggest issues is housing.
Why they can destroy the public? He can destroy housing in the city.
That's my question, is housing, because that's one of the reasons he won on the 1 million regulated apartments, 2 million people. Well, so that is a real need. We do need housing.
We need housing
can he
desperately.
come through with any of that?
He can try to do that, but let's go back to the idea of regulating rent stabilized apartments. So at one point, those apartments were owned by other kinds of ethnics. Those buildings, Jews, Italians. They had their stores, their groceries downstairs,
right,
or their barber shops, or their shoemakers, whatever it was. In many of them, they sold those properties to blacks, Latins, so that those folks from all over the world could build the same kind of lives. So taxes have gone up. Maintenance costs have gone up. If you cap them, those maintenance costs will remain higher anyway.
They'll give them back to the bank.
The taxes will come. They're going to give them back to the bank, or they're going to blow them up. Or they'll go to insurance companies.
So there'll be no, if you have less supply, the prices go up, right?
No, it's called the South Bronx of 1960, 70, and 50, which I lived in, by the way.
In all the campaigns that you've ran,
sure,
have you ever ran one for a socialist?
No.
So could you give us any examples of any success after a socialist would win?
This is a new phenomenon.
Is a new phenomenon.
New phenomenon. I mean, look at the city of Philadelphia, for example, which I worked in a lot. There used to be a Republican Party and a Democrat Party. Today there is a Democrat Party and a Working Families Party. And the Working Families Party is an adjunct of the Democratic Socialists of America.
So last question.
Sure.
As a citizen, and I know you can't back anybody, but as a citizen, tell our audience who you would vote for.
No. I can't say that because I'm running an independent expenditure campaign, so I really can't.
What would you advise your friends to vote for?
I tell my friends to vote for the person they believe will defend democracy under all circumstances. Democracy is under attack. If this man wins, and with the people he's going to take with him, they will tell you what they want, and if you refuse to comply, the stakes will be very high. And this is not fooling around. Listen to his rhetoric, watch his face.
And you, as the expert, believe that there's a chance that we can win?
I believe there's a chance that New York can win. But again, people have to turn out to vote. And it's got, again, there are 4 targets that I'm going to work on. It's got to be wiped out in the minority community. I mean, he ran a brilliant campaign. What they did, let me explain this to you. Normally, consultants who are lazy, what they do is they target what we call people who voted in the last three elections or last 4 elections. So what Mamdani did, which is very smart, Mamdani targeted zeros, people who voted in 0 of the last elections, 1 of the last elections, or 2 of the last 4 elections, let's say, right? They were under 35, and he turned them out. The job of anybody who wants to beat him is to find people over 35 in the same groupings and turn them out, in particular ethnic demographic groups. It's not going to be easy. It's got to be on the street. Forget media, forget the internet. It's got to be on the street, and it's going to have to be in calls. And I think what I've done is hired people who are doing this not so they can make a buck, but who've knocked their prices almost to 0.
Is there a chance that this can still be done if 3 people stay in the race?
Harder. But again, the argument is still the same. The tactic is still the same. Knock his numbers down. I predicted he would have 40,000 people on the street in the primary.
What's your prediction now?
100,000 all over the country. They win in New York. The future is bleak for us, but very good for them.
I always say if New York gets a cold, there goes the country.
Well, again, New York New York could lose its position as the financial capital of the world. We're seeing a steady movement of jobs and wealth to the Dallas-Fort Worth corridor. It's been written about. Very good article by Josh Chafin in the Wall Street Journal a couple weeks ago. That's where this could go. The country is less reliant on New York because the internet and internet communications is changing that. AI will change everything. But if you want to see this guy up close, go read 1984 again and think about the screen on the ceiling and think about that as the internet candidate. That's who this is. With no experience, never done anything that New Yorkers do to build this city.
Well, hopefully we're going to get united. We're going to get you on the trail because
Yeah,
you know
do
how
the
to
best
win
I can.
elections.
I hope I
everybody
can.
say again how they can get involved. So that
It's called protecttheprotectors.com, and you really should go there and join other New Yorkers. And again, the people I've hired to do this are working almost at cost, and I'm not making a dime. I mean, I owe New York everything, and so do all of you.
So do I. So I want to thank you for coming on the Miller Report.
Thank
And
you
never
so much.
bet against New York. Thank you, Hank, and thank you, all my listeners.